What's life all about? It's amazing how we ask this question when we're really much older and don't really think about it when we're younger. And we question how far we've gotten in life and where we have potentially failed. In reality, I don't see this as failure. I heard a saying once that said, 100 failures in life is 100 lessons learnt. And that's how I see it. And I think it's true. But when we look back, we can either laugh, we can cry, and we can even cringe sometimes. But we hopefully know not to repeat those same mistakes again. We need to remind ourselves that we are great, we are kings, we are queens. We can overcome whatever gets thrown our way and bounce back. We need to be our self confidence that we need. And once we have that, you'll be surprised how easily it rubs off on other people. So let's pass on that positive energy and make it spread like wildfire. And that's it.
I didn't bloom until I was 34 years old. Most people, when they think, when someone is a teen, late teen, early adult, that's when you bloom, and stuff like that. But it doesn't work that way. Blooming isn't a physical uh, aspect. It's a mindset. And I feel that when you do bloom, you find your purpose. You find exactly what you were put on this earth to do. And no, you don't have to have everything in line and in place. But if you know where you're going, that is your God given right for you to open up your petals and go. A lot of what I see and what I went through, when you suppress yourself, or you give the keys, the validation keys to people, they judge when you are to bloom. And most oftentimes, it doesn't happen. Blooming comes from self. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to reach self-actualization. And that's when all these goals are met, in your life. And once you're able to satisfy all those criteria, that is when you truly find self-autonomy, and you're able to find pure happiness. But it's not something that you have to go to school for 50, a billion years for. It's not something of, I got the job of my life, or I have children, or X, Y, and Z. People can have these things and still be unhappy. Still be unhappy. It is true happiness, true joy. It comes from within. It's content, it's gratitude, it's able to see the big picture in all of it, and are you going to have rough days? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I have rough days all the time, and it's kind of weird, because it's just like when you get towards a breakthrough, that's when it's the most heavy. You ever notice that? You're getting closer to something, and that's when then life wants to attack every single thing around you. And if you're not strong enough, it will consume you, and it's okay to wobble. It's a whole nother thing, to not get back up, so I've fallen quite a few times, but I had to kind of get back into the mindset of, God told you what you're supposed to do. He didn't say it was going to be easy, but he knows you. He knows your heart. And that's what God looks after, finding God, or, it would say I'm Christian. So it's, being a good Christian. You don't necessarily have to go to church to be a good Christian. You don't have to listen to sermons, and you don't have to sing gospel music in order for you to fit the criteria of you being a good Christian. God doesn't look for the deeds that you do to judge you as to who you are. He judges you by the Spirit. He judges you by your heart. It can be someone that cusses all day, had a horrible past, have done things, and he sees the purity in that person, and someone that has been by the book, but their mindset, their intent is not so godly, so it kind of brings you back to the story of when you dying of thirst. It's a song by Kendrick Lamar. It's Sing About Me / Dying of Thirst. And towards the end, it's a older lady. She sounds like a grandma. She sounds like, you can come over there every Sunday. But she says, you need water. You are dying of thirst. And I used to listen to that song all the time. It's still one of my favorite songs. But it holds so true. It's heavy lyrics, because these are the obstacles that people have to go through every day, and the true thing is that you're sitting there trying to do all these things. I've had jobs, and I've been to school, and I've done, series of projects, following other people in their projects, trying to help everyone else, trying different things, and I still wasn't happy. I still wasn't fulfilled, and that's because I was thirsty. When you be like, oh, you a thirst bucket? I was a thirst bucket for purpose. I didn't have a purpose. So I'm sitting there trying to love everybody else, and trying to uplift everyone else without truly finding what was going to quench me. I can't help anyone unless I'm fulfilled. The only way for you to become fulfilled is if you really just, sit down and have a moment with God. When I first had my breakthrough, I literally just had just a bare the soul moment with God. I couldn't take it no more. I cried like a little baby, and I'm telling him, I'm hurt. I'm hurting. I'm in pain and I'm scared. And it took a lot to kind of just say things that we think about, but we never really formulate the words in our head for. Not the true words. You could feel the feeling, but you never really try to acknowledge it, because either A, you don't have the strength to even deal with it, or you're scared to deal with it, So I finally released holding on to the grip, of trying to just bear it, or, trying to just, it's okay, it's just sweeping underneath the rug. Tomorrow's a new day. And yeah, you can have a positive outlook all you want, and you can have positive vibes around people all you want, but deep down inside, are you truly full of positivity? Most often than not, some people is not that way, and only this, so you may try to be, surface level with yourself, and that's the saddest part. When you're doing that to yourself, it's another thing. It's like, okay, yeah, you do that with other people. You don't want to just bare your soul to people. But when you do that with yourself, you literally don't have an identity. You're putting your own identity, under the rug. So when you're dying of thirst, you're dying of purpose, and God, he wants to speak to you in the spirit from your heart. It's, don't ever try to get validation from other things, when innately you have it within you. innately seems to be the word of the week. I've been hearing that word in various platforms this whole week, but it's true. It's naturally in you, but it does bring back the woman at the well. She's dying of thirst. She's so tired, and she didn't even know what she needed. Because you go on day to day doing the same thing, and as long as you're able to cope to the next day without you committing suicide, or something wild, then it's okay. Then you're content because it's nothing that's gonna give a ripple in your life. If you're still able to do the bare minimum, and bare minimum could just be, I'm doing homework with my child, or I went to work, I clocked in, I clocked out, my bills are paid. But are you fully at your zenith? And that's doing the gift that God gave you. When you have a gift and you can identify what it is, and I'm just now getting to that, that gift. I hate writing, but I'm damn good at it. I hate writing. I loathe it. But I loathe the process because I'm such a perfectionist. But to really put down what is the deepest crevices of your mind onto paper is something that I've always was able to do. And I have to thank my father for, really cultivating that, because my dad was a big grammar police guy. If you said the wrong thing, he's the guy that's like, you're, and you're. Like, he's one of those. Like, but it was proper training that when I write, I literally write like I'm writing an essay, and I do it through text message. I write formally all the time, and a lot of people probably make fun of you about it. Like, why do you sound like that? It's something that I was literally trained to do when I was little, so writing essays and reviews and research papers, I can do it. I don't like it, but I can do it. But also psychology, art. I love art. I like working with my hands and, things like that. And if you could find how to incorporate all those elements, the things that you're passionate about, you're going to go far. If you're able to harness that and really put all those elements together to make a project, to make a difference into someone else's world, the sky's the limit, but in order for you to kind of reach that, you gotta have conversations with God, because it's not like it's a magic wand and you know exactly what to do. He's gonna give you the blueprint, but he's not gonna give it to you in your hand, and it's one thing that you do have to learn. Nothing is, comes that easy, not your whole life, so if you know what you want to do, he already has the end game for you. It's just you harnessing a couple of things in order for you to get there. But that's when you truly bloom, really hearing him, and yes, you can, read your Bible and, go to church, stuff like that. You can do that. Definitely. It's highly promoted. Is that what's going to guarantee you to do God's purpose? Is that going to guarantee you to give the okay, get the okay from God? No, it's not. You can follow everything in the book, get up there, pass away, get up there and be like, God, I did X, Y, and Z. And he's going to look at you like, I don't even know who the hell you are. But you truly have a relationship with God, and literally as your father, however way you want to look at him, you have a true conversation with him. He's going to talk to you back, he's definitely going to let you know when you're doing something wrong. He's definitely going to let you know when you're doing it right, and not every day is going to be a good day, but he's always there. He loves you. But he seeks your heart. I definitely, want to say he seeks your heart. And I went through a lot of years of crying, and I'm a big mush. I cry over every little thing. But, I used to cry of all the things in the darkness, but now there's some things that, yeah, they're a bit scary, of course, I don't have as healthy of lungs as I'm supposed to have. But, certain things will make you sad or stuff like that. But I find more often in times now that I have tears of joy. You start talking to God and you're sitting there like, I can't believe you did X, Y, and this, Z for me. You start thinking about your problems and then you start backtracking of where you used to be. And then you start crying. I start crying off of that. Like, this is why, I could have been, I could still be there. It could be a lot worse. And then you sitting there like, oh my God, thank you, God. Thank you for doing this for me. And that's when the waterworks come down again, So but I'm a mush. Not everyone is like me, but for all the mushes out there, shout out to you. It's okay to have emotion. But yeah, it is what it is. It took a long time for me to hear God, but I got a peace, an inner peace about it, even through my dry spells, my storms. He quenches my spirit. He'll quench your spirit, and the first time I ever like really truly broke down, like real bad, and it was a major breakthrough for me. I was watching a sermon with TD Jakes, and yeah, I got through I got past the you're loved and you can do this and you can do that, and I started really getting into the swing of things. But my biggest thing I need to deal with was my fear, fear of flapping my wings, fear of blooming, of and some people, they do it naturally on their own. They're able to just have a plan. They're able to do the mundane things in life. But for some, for others, it's not easy, and some people, they're born into being crippled by life, So, yeah, some people need help, but then you also have enablers, that will enable and pacify your crippled state. When not for nothing, all you needed was a little bit of training in God's gym. And you could, you good, you could soar. But you would never know how strong your wings are unless you get kicked out the nest, and it's a scary thing. It's very scary. But it can be done. It can. But yes, when I first broke down, TD Jakes was talking, and he literally looked at the camera, like in the camera. He does not do that, or like he looks in the camera, but not dead in your, like you could see him dead in your face type thing. He doesn't do that. But he looked at the camera, and he said, I understand, I know you're scared, and I'm scared too, and that was the pivotal moment of my change. It's not the teachings, it's not someone, you can go to church and that person's telling you need to do this, that, have a whole bunch of bullet point, points for you to do, a whole pie chart. Is how you're successful in life. And you can do that all you want to someone's blue in the face, and that person will never get it. I think that, and that's one of the reasons why, I want to get so deep into psychology and be able to help people, because it's not about what you know. It's about coming to the same person's level of understanding, and literally just, I get it. Dude, I get it. Mama, I get it. People hold on to their emotions. They hold on to their vulnerability, because it's hard to find people that truly understand it or just truly won't judge them, and that's not easy. It's not easy to find. It's rare to find someone that understands your I wouldn't say it's your DNA markup, but just literally your markup of your personality, how you react to things, what you love, what you dislike, things like that. When someone truly gets it, that person is spiritually there to be in your life. Don't ever let them go. But when someone truly cares without judgment, that's the biggest gift you can get to somebody. I don't care how you grew up or what you had to deal with. Not everyone is you, and sometimes you can give something back to that person, or that person can give something to you. You never know who you meet, and you never know what the outcome is. You meet somebody and you feel like, that person could have $1 million, and they have so many things that they do know. And you meet that person and you end up leaving, changing them, then they changed you. You don't know, but it literally takes for you to take away that pride, take away that ego. It's not about judging. It literally is, let me understand where that person's coming from. And it's almost like your inner child plays with their inner child. If you can get to that point where you're that nurturing and you let them open up and you truly become empathetic, and a lot of times that solves a lot of issues in this world. Can you become apathetic without judgment? That's hard for people, and sometimes I do it too. It's human nature to classify. It is human nature. We love to put things in categories, and that's where pretty much the caste system came into play. It was built all up on classification, but we like to put things in boxes because our brains like to be organized. We don't like to be in chaos. So we subconsciously it's like autopilot to do so, that we'll put everything in a category. But if you're putting someone in a category and they're lower than you or lower than your view, you will never get far. You will never get far. It becomes superficial, and the connection is now authentic. When you're able to just kind of bear it, and just really truly talk to people without having to put your 2 cents or, stuff like that. That's when magic happens. Jesus did not stay in the temple all day. He did not. He was chilling with the heathens, okay? Chilling with the heathens. But he was spreading that gospel. Can't be sitting there judging people. So I smoke cigarettes, and I ain't gonna sit here and tell someone, well, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't do that because God said. I'm not doing all of that because that's not what God would have did. Seriously, I tell my story, and tell them how God changed me and stuff like that, but I'm not gonna sit there and be like, well, I'm better than you or this and that, because I'm not. I truly ain't. God could easily be like, I'm done with you for all the times that you do mess up, my child. And that's it. That's it. That's the last thing I want. That is the last thing I want. If you can come down to the circle of somebody and not come, and patronize them. Patronize, I'm not sure. Tomatoes. But if you're able to just be authentic with that person and really come open to learn something yourself, and just enjoy the connection. You never know who can break their mold, who can bloom. People, they may see potential in you. They may see that, you could be so much more. The truth is, You gotta see that potential in yourself first. It just is what it is. But once you're able to love your quirks, love your scars. I have scars. I have scars, but I'm appreciative of them. I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I didn't get them. I would never have gotten to this point if I didn't have my scars. So don't be afraid of your scars. Team scars. Like, and you're able to learn from them, and you're able to empower yourself with it. You could go, it'll work. It'll work out. God always has a plan. Even when you mess it up. I done messed up my God's plan plenty of times, and he had to reroute my behind back onto my highway. Jumping off of exits. But anyway, that's what it is. It is what it is. But if you feel a little bit thirsty, do know that God will quench that thirst. Okay? Just talk to him. I'm not gonna tell you a whole list of what you gotta do. Just have a conversation with the things I said. Be open, be teachable, bare your soul. Don't hide nothing. If you scared, you scared. If you angry, you angry. Just let it go. Let it go to him. And he will set a nice little blueprint for what you're supposed to do and not what you want to do. But yeah, I will see you guys next week. All right. Love you guys and have a blessed one.